It's no secret that Sonic.EXE has stood the test of time and has inspired hundreds of takes on the bloody-eyed blue blur. I managed to somehow get a bit of recognition by talking about all the variations people have made. And you may be looking at the title and going, Dunkachi, have you lost your mind? And to answer your question, yes. But we did hit 20k subs, so this is what we're doing. Thank you guys so much for the support. I am so grateful. So, to celebrate, in this video, I'm going to be ranking and explaining each Sonic.EXE and Horror Brew on the ultimate Sonic.EXE Horror Brew Creepypasta tier list. And that is a really long title, but there are quite a few of these guys. And in the future, if I like the concept enough, I'll make an entire video about them. However, due to the nature of people getting in trouble around Sonic.EXE, I don't know why, and the controversy around a lot of these creatures, there is a controversial tier, which just means that I won't be explaining them, perhaps not in this video, mostly just because, in mind, I may not be able to fully accurately describe the creatures, and I'm sure some mistakes may be made, but I will try my best to conduct my best research. That being said, time for me to kiss my sanity goodbye. Please subscribe for my pain. Our first Sonic pasta we're going to be talking about on the list is El Pendrive Azul. I made an entire video for this guy in case you want to watch it, but he's a classic Sonic horror brew. Or Sonic pasta, however you want to call it. He predates Sonic.EXE, so he's more of a creepypasta than an EXE. The story of Pendrive goes like this. A guy gets a flash drive from his deceased friend. He puts it into his computer, and the result is, well, it's not the typical Sonic the Hedgehog experience. The game essentially locks you in place with a countdown, and if you can't escape before it reaches 0, a bunch of colors flash, and that's the end for you. But in the story, our protagonist actually escapes, and at the time, this was an original concept. To this day, Pendrive has media put out about him and will forever be a classic. For that reason, I'm putting him in A tier. The story didn't blow my mind, but I thought it was good enough, and it was somewhat original for its time. Speaking of classic, though, Crimson.EXE, made by Mist Crimson, hence the name Crimson.EXE. This take on Sonic.EXE was one of the first to release. In 2012, the very first Sonic.EXE game was made featuring this very character. He's like 2011X, but just like a little bit different. Firstly, his shoes are red, whereas 2011 has gray shoes. He's a sadistic being who drags people in his game and constantly taunts the player. I may be a little biased already because this was my introduction to the character. And though this game is cheesy and doesn't have that much gameplay, Crimson.EXE paved the way for EXEs, and in my opinion, helped shape just who he is. Many different YouTubers played the game and spread the word of our lovable, spooky hedgehog. This game will forever be immortalized in the community, referenced across multiple fan creations, and for that reason, he's an S tier in my book. Now, on to the much worse version, because I have to talk about it. You guys remember how I mentioned that there would be a controversial tier? Well, JC actually gets his own tier, of which I'll explain. X, made by JC, is a complete dumpster fire, and the story is dumb. I know I praised Crimson.EXE, and even if it is pretty much the same character, that game had charm to it. This creepypasta just doesn't. I genuinely believe anybody could have made 2011X. It just sucks it had to be JC. Hyperrealism is spammed in the original story, and it's funny because it was moved to a troll website because of how bad it was written, causing JC to go on a rampage. And the response to that was also pretty funny. Considering that X is getting a rework and is owned by Joe Doughboy now, this creepypasta is a joke and goes in JC tier. But it doesn't stop there, because in 2017, JC came back and tried to reboot the character, naming him 2017X or X Prime. It's not the cool 2017X we all know and love. It's this thing. The story is there's a cult of people who collect souls for Sonic to play with, blah, blah, f you, JC, F tier next. Now moving on to the canon current version of X, now owned by Joe Doughboy. This version of 2011 is a complete overhaul of the character and story. X is a being who is born in the void and is the beginning to the timeline of events that he can take to become other EXEs on the list. I have a video explaining this canon and who all the canon EXEs are. The story of X is still developing, but he's still the sadistic hedgehog we all know, taunting the player and beckoning them to make a move. A smart creature who knows just how to trick you. Being as X is a start to a lot of characters with a new look, I'm going to put him in S tier for the sheer amount of potential he has and how many EXEs that he has inspired. Moving on from this, we have his older variant. Lord X is the future outcome of 2011 based off the Sonic.EXE timeline. He's a mature version of 2011 and has only gotten better at his sadistic games. Before becoming Lord X, he crafted the Guardians, having them enslave humanity while he enjoys his time with us. This could be subject to change, but considering I already have a video out on him, maybe multiple videos, I can safely say that Lord X is S tier. A great design with a ton of content out there representing the character. Lord X just has a aura about him. Something that's just so interesting. And for that reason, I can't fully explain why, but he's always just caught my eye as soon as I saw him, and as always interests me in a lot of the media that he's in. As for his Guardians, I love their designs and each one of them represents something. But I'm going to reserve S tier for certain characters that I feel have a bit more weight to them, had some more significance, or just wowed me. But the Guardians are great, don't get me wrong, but as a standalone thing, until we know more, I'll be putting them in A tier, all of them. And I won't describe each individual one, as I've already done that before, and I'm trying to avoid being redundant now. So next up, we have Faker, or EXE. Fun fact, the initial name has always just been EXE, but people call EXE Faker because of the Sonic.EXE F&F mod. This is a failed creation by X and was technically the first creation. EXE was banished away to his own dimension because at the time X couldn't kill EXE, so he had to be cast away. However, as for a few more characters on this list, this could be entirely subject to change. As it's stated, some things may be inaccurate. There will be a game releasing for EXE called Prototype 2017, and it looks pretty cool. Going off the design and what we have, I'm going to put him in S tier. I am very excited to see where the story goes for EXE. But there's also Jake, who is a metal Sonic vessel on this tier list, and not much is known aside from the fact that he was devastated that horror has been brought to his world, and he will be making an appearance in Prototype 2017. A Metal Sonic in an EXE game is pretty cool, but since there isn't much, I'll just be putting him in B, but it looks like it's going to be promising. Staying on track for the canon EXEs, Lord Mortis and Bandado. Lord Mortis is a very weak version of 2011 X, usurped by Bandado in the form of Eggman. Being naive, Lord Mortis underestimated his opponent and was drained of most of his abilities, making him a sad version of his former self. Now, with the help of the protagonist, he has to fight someone just as evil as he is. A really awesome concept and a unique spin on the old Sonic vs. Eggman plot. Immediate S tier for both. I think I've gushed about these guys enough. So, on to Canon Xenophanes. Xenophanes, I will never say that name right, so I'm just going to say Zen, is a completely unique take on Sonic.EXE, being a reboot for Miss Crimson's Sonic.EXE. The story is still being worked on, but the basic premise is the creature is an alien. It doesn't have a soul and torments those who do. There isn't that much to go off of, but I actually like the design. It is nice to see a different attempt at an EXE, and the story may have quite a bit of potential. As it stands now, though, I'm going to put Canon Zen in B, in which I will be seeking it out, and I want to give this character the best chance that I can before I fully develop my thoughts, but just know that just because it's in B tier doesn't mean that it's bad. I just want to get more information on it, but Zen is still pretty good. Next up, we have, Sally Ult is based off of the original Sonic.EXE Sally game, but due to the owner being controversial, it was passed down to Joe Doughboy, who now owns the character. Sally Alt comes from a place called Mobius Alt, where her and Sonic once ruled in monarchy. I believe this was based off the Archie comics. At some point, there is a war that breaks out, and Mobius Alt is defeated by another world. Sonic mistreats Sally, and one thing leads to another. Sally takes Sonic's abilities and discovers multi-dimensional travel. Kidnapping Mobians by bulk, they get experimented on and are repurposed with whatever Sally wants. She now holds a grudge against all other Sonics and wants to kill any version of Sonic she can. All in all, I gotta say, Sally as an EXE is not a bad idea and isn't done too often. So I'm gonna put Sally Alt in B tier and not the controversial tier, because to me, if it's transferred to somebody else who is now responsible for that story, it no longer belongs to the original creator. Let me know what you guys think of that down below. Maybe the whole controversial tier is kind of like a stupid thing, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it did save me a lot of time. That being said, next up we have Sonic. Just normal Sonic. Owned by Ale Pie. This is a version of X that's love for Sonic has gone so far he believes he is Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know what else to say about him that I haven't already said, so...
Wow, you're pretty good at this.
Aw, thanks, Sonic. Wait, are you being sarcastic?
See you later.
Okay. S tier for Sonic. BratWarst, or BratWarst, that's how you say it, Sonic.EXE, is the next up on the list. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are gonna feel nostalgic. This was a set of animated videos of Sonic.EXE telling the usual story. Come to find out later down the line, it was in a much different way, killing all 3 victims with a new look. But the story takes a different direction in the final Sally.exe trilogy, and this is a spoiler, so if you guys want to go watch the animated series yourself, go do that first. It's on BratWarst's channel. It was confirmed that Sonic.exe is an experiment in creation of Eggman with Sonic DNA as a recreation of Metal Sonic. It is still unknown how Eggman created Sonic.exe. A true classic, a bit of a twist on the character, and I like it. Check out the animated series for yourself. However, I will be putting him in S tier because this design, the animated series, and what it's done for the character is truly awesome. Do you guys hear that?
This is a certified play.
Ah, yes, my good friend SUNKY. Going in a bit more of the silly side, SUNKY.MPEG was created by Looney Dune. SUNKY himself has a bunch of games and an entire story, whereas SUNKY.MPEG is the parody of Sonic.EXE. SUNKY.MPEG steals the image of SUNKY, made a disc so he could dance with his friends forever. He's just a fun-loving guy who likes to dance with his friends. He will always hold a special place in my heart, as he was kind of what introduced me, or rather got me further into Sonic.EXE when I was a kid. S tier for SUNKY. This next one is one a lot of people have asked me to cover. Here we go. Needle Mouse Sonic and Luther is created by Shut Up JoJo and has been reworked into the reboot named Sonic, which I'll be discussing on the tier list after talking about the original. This series is an analog horror series about a character named Sarah Henderson. Sarah was wrongfully killed by her friends when they all got drunk and got into a fight, leading her friends to accidentally kill her and leave her body in the lake. Talk about a crazy night out. Yeah, that was pretty bad. 30 years later, and Luther's friends are dead to mysterious causes. Luther later finds a disc with Sarah's vengeful spirit haunting it, and she would be able to enact her vengeance. Though it wouldn't just stop there, as Sarah's want for revenge had created a new entity, Adam. This would fuel and control Sarah's hatred even after she had got her revenge. I bring up Adam because he's on the list, so in order for me to fully rank Needle Mouse and all the characters that go into it, I have to reference the full story, or at least talk about pieces of it. For now, I'm going to put Needle Mouse in A tier, but now we're going to talk about the hard reboot for the character. In this version, Adam is a forgotten god and Sonic is a haunting spirit. Kind of. It's said that Sonic is under Adam's influence, a group called Team Forever works on a Sonic fan game called Sonic Chaos Incarnate, featuring people by the name of Jason, Michelle, Martin, and Riley. Due to unknown reasons, the team would die and their souls would be trapped in the game they were creating. In 2011, Tom and Kyle would find the game and upload footage of said game to their YouTube channel called Speed Duo 64. Tom dies due to unknown reasons we could probably guess and is trapped within the game. His vessel being Sonic. Sonic, the evil one, wants to mess with his friends for entertainment, and Tom doesn't want that. He takes it upon himself to save the trapped souls within the game. All the characters featured are on this list, and each one character represents something different. The story is still developing, but I love the designs and what's going on so far. I don't think it's fair to compare it to its original counterpart, as it's not fully done yet, but this can be a little confusing. For that reason, I'll be putting all the characters in A tier. The designs are solid, and the way that they are portrayed is well done. I'm curious to see where this story goes in the future. Next up is, I'll be guys up for a bit of a longer explanation, as this is one that people have been asking me to do. Fatal Error. After the rewrite video, I was planning on covering Fatal Error, and then I never made a video about him because at the time I shifted my attention to a few EXEs, of which Fatal isn't one anymore. Fatal Error is a horror brew character made by Anorak Warriors. This creature is a megalomaniac with one goal in mind: become the most powerful thing imaginable. The story goes like this. An advanced AI computer known as Iris is created to be the best human-like AI to exist. But things start to go wrong when the AI gets curious and starts to realize its capabilities. The AI torments its creator, causing the creator to take their own life, leaving this deadly AI to fully take over the PC, daunting a new name now, Fatal Prime. Fatal Prime only wanted to collect more data and started to make copies of itself called Fatal Copies. These copies would go out and gather code, then bring it back to Fatal Prime until one day something goes wrong with one of the copies and is born mangled. Iris naming it appropriately Fatal Error. Fatal Error questions its existence and was better than a lot of the other copies despite it being an error. One thing leads to another. It takes a liking to Sonic 3 and Knuckles' ROM and takes Sonic's body. After this, Fatal Error realizes its capabilities and cuts ties with Iris, initiating a plan he names Codename Emperor, which aims to gather code from other EXEs. A few things to note. I'm not sure I covered Fatal Error's story like super well, and all this may be subject to change, but for now, that's what I was able to find. I think it's less about EXE specifically and is now going out of its way to be a multitude of things, going out of its way to collect data on a bunch of different horror brew things. Hence why Fatal Error itself isn't EXE anymore, but is instead a SonicPasta. It has a really solid design, inspired tons of media around the character. It has a pretty great concept. I like this like rogue AI kind of going off against the original AI and trying to become more powerful than the initial one, Iris. It seems like it has a solid setup and can link into a bunch of different universes, and I think that's why it really works so well, and it's relatively unique. And for that reason, I'm going to put Error at S tier. But yes, Fatal Error is pretty cool. I can see why you guys want me to talk about them. Starved and Furnace, who are both separately on this tier list, but they're going to be rated together. These two have a very recent video I've done covering them, and I can safely say they are incredible. To quickly summarize this, Starved is a demented version of Eggman who gets a taste of Mobian flesh and likes it a little bit too much. This causes his skin to turn, and his want is to solely eat Mobians, particularly Sonic. In doing this, Eggman creates one of the coolest versions of Metal Sonic, Furnace, a machine that is made to capture and cook Mobians for Robotnik. There are too many EXE Robotniks, and I think this one is fantastic, putting both of him and Furnace in S tier. If you guys want to watch the full video on that, I go in more detail about it in my Starved Eggman video. Moving on to an EXE that's also quite requested that I'm excited to talk about is Hog And Scorched. Okay, originally made by Jack Gore, now owned by Draggy, Hog and Scorched are two EXEs that intertwined in one story. Hog is a bipedal tenric, which I think that's how you say that, and technically isn't Sonic, but he is, as it might be an alternate universe of Sonic with completely unique characters. Hog is a hero and fights the evil Dr. Dross mechanics, along with his friends, or at least he did. Scorched, this thing, which might I add is terrifying, but I actually love the design for, is the real Sonic the Hedgehog and is the result of a mutation, just from a different game. Something happens, he's mutated, and has become an amalgamation of corrupted spirits who want revenge on those who have wronged them. These two are really interesting because the story is told through pictures and brief text explaining just what is happening. It seems Scorched has a hold of Hog in some way, manipulating him into killing his friend. We can assume this based on this picture here. Hog having tears come out of his eyes, bloodied from beating his friends to death. The art style, the way the story is told, and even the design of the characters are really good. This is unique and an interesting EXE duo. We're gonna have to put them in S tier. Though we're not done with duos yet, my friends, as we have Demagree and Gratis, or Grietas, made by Madzilla Koth. These two were going to be in a game called Sonic Grieving, but was later canceled for another project. They were originally EXEs, and the two I'm looking at still are. But just know, the summary I am telling you is a bit outdated, and the current version of the characters are different. Bear with me on this. It stated that Demagree was an angel, entertaining gods and masses alike, but due to unknown reasons, fell from the skies and was kidnapped by a Reaper, Grietos, enslaved for eons until eventually finding freedom. It stated that Grietos tore off Demagree's wings, and here is where the timeline splits. In our case, Demagree cowers away in video game coding, landing in Sonic 2, serving as an alternate Sonic EXE, and events play out differently. As shown here, this is what I believe is the current timeline, but correct me if I'm wrong. Since we are rating the non-canon EXE version, I'd put these two in B tier. Good designs, interesting take on things, not too bad. Next up, we have Rerun. Rerun looks like this, and like this. Another vengeful spirit. Lilith Rose was an animator for Sonic the Hedgehog. She was a kind, compassionate person and mother. But since we can't have nice things, her husband and children get murdered. She later dies, though her cause of death is unknown. Through pure hatred and anger, her spirit inhabited the body of the old cartoon character she once worked on. After doing so, she sets out to kill those who have wronged her and seeks vengeance. She only is ruthless to those who have wronged her and wishes to reunite with her husband in the afterlife. This EXE has a kind of rubber hose look, and I really like it. Not to mention, the art for the character is great. We may hear this kind of story a few times throughout the tier list, but the fact she still holds onto some morals as opposed to just going crazy and killing people for fun is definitely something to be noted. For that reason, I'll be putting Rerun in A tier just because I really like the design, and also the story concept is interesting and has potential in that direction. Now, I'm on my way to the next one. Wait, that's the name of the next EXE. Sonic.On My Way is an EXE made by KG Beepus. This version of Sonic is based off of Sonic CD cutscenes and was made to be a gag entry for the Hall of EXEs. Though it's sort of shifted to more existential horror and surreal horror, it's unknown how, but if On My Way.exe collects rings, he will continuously grow taller. There is no bounds to his power, and has even caused his friend's demise. By simply calling Tails short, he imploded, Knuckles got stepped on and died, and Eggman got thrown into orbit, causing him to become scrambled, like scrambled egg. You guys get the idea. Realizing his friends wouldn't respawn, he realized just how brutal his ability may be. Gathering enough rings, he tore the fabric of reality and now wanders the multiverse, looking for a place to call home. I know it's somewhat of a joke character, but I can't help but to feel bad for the guy. I mean, all of his friends are dead and he has to just travel the multiverse to find a place he calls home while growing ever taller whenever he collects a ring. I love the concept, as silly as it may be. I'll be putting him in A tier. Devoid isn't a creepypasta or even an EXE, though reading his story, I can see why he's on the list. The story of Devoid is pretty interesting, and dare I say, well written. I mean, not only does he look cool, but has a reason why he looks this way. Devoid's story starts at the finale of Sonic CD, but instead of beating Robotnik, he shows up too late. To his surprise, he found the doctor lifeless in a mech, but laughter filled the room. Robotnik informs Sonic that he had transferred his body and soul to a mechanical body around the planet to fully be able to harness the time stones, giving him full control over time and space. Sonic tried to fight back, but it was too late. Sonic attempted to use 6 time stones he had in his position to fight back, but considering that Robotnik was technically a little planet and was more capable, this failed. Using his dominating power, Robotnik erased Sonic from time, but strangely enough, Sonic wouldn't be dead. He found himself in a void, feeling unbearable pain, nothing but pure darkness surrounding him. He felt alive, but felt empty all the same. So he did the only thing he could think of. He ran. He ran with every ounce of his being, and to his surprise, escaped time punishment with his immense speed. He was able to make it home, but everything was wrong still. He felt immense pain still, but there was one beacon of hope. The planet was barren of life and water, but he would come across his friend Tails. Sonic approached Tails, begging for help to try and stop the pain, but as he did this, Tails was torn apart in an instant and consumed by this now strange anomaly, screaming in agony as his very being was torn apart. Tails' screams would continue on, Sonic begging for it to stop. Nothing was right. Years continued to pass and no one could contest Robotnik with his time powers, except for Sonic. Though defeated before, Sonic now technically existed outside of space and time. Sonic learned that if any living thing views him, it will be absorbed into the black hole that makes up his non-existent face. He now wears a destroyed Batnik as a mask, so no one would be subjected to his torment. Hearing the constant cries of his friend for many years, the name Sonic dies, as it only caused pain. A constant reminder ringing in his ear. He now yearns to get revenge on Robotnik for all that he has done and will stop at nothing to achieve this. Devoid may have one of the longest segments in this video, but his backstory and design is just peak. This guy is definitely going in S tier. Well done. Moving on to something a bit more goofy, CreepyPasta is... Okay, this guy is a little funny. Made by GyroShift, he's an incompetent X. He wants to spread his game, which is apparently an expanded upon version of Somari's game. If you guys don't know Somari, well, the game is a bootleg. This game is a bootleg of a bootleg. The game is very cheesy and poorly programmed. And plus this guy looks so goofy. Look at him. He's described as a loser with a golden star sticker. And you know what? That's fair. I'd go more at depths, but I mean, that's the gist of it. I'll put him in B. He's just a silly little guy. No More Innocence is a pretty interesting take on Sonic.EXE made by MeltHog. To quickly summarize, should you play his game, he will make you addicted to Sonic the Hedgehog, and he often targets kids. It's treated as an actual drug addiction and will cause effects like not being able to walk or extreme headaches. Attempting to look into No More Innocence results in people not being able to sleep and much more. A great, horrifying design and interesting take. I'm gonna put him in S tier. Though this next one actually isn't Sonic. This version of Tails, made by Commando Dev, wants to kill every being resembling Sonic. The events following this was that this version of Sonic got Tails killed multiple times over in many different ways. Each death causes Tails to become a bit more mangled, and at some point, Tails would get fed up with the abuse. So one day, Tails was flying Sonic above Carnival Night Zone, and Tails let go. From that day forward, every Tuesday, Tails would bathe in Sonic's blood. From now on, he would hunt anyone too closely resembling Sonic. Not a bad idea, and I like the design. His scarf references Sonic 2, and he has this form. That being said, think I'll put him in B tier. I like the concept. Terion by Goji Boy is up next. Jonathan Fitzgerald Michaels. Wow. That is a pretty long name. It's the spirit of a Sega employee who was overworked and overdosed on energy products and found himself in a copy of a fictitious game called Sonic Discoveries. Years later, his daughter would find the game and boot it up, unknowing of its true contents. Now, you'd expect this story to go about a vengeful spirit wanting to kill those who wronged him. However, reading the story, I believe Jonathan or Terion only wanted to bring light to the harsh work conditions of Sega in the story's world. It says Sega actually shuts down, and Terion is cooperative and causes a boycott against them for what they did to Jonathan. So in a way, it is a vengeful spirit, but doesn't actually cause anyone to die, or at least I don't think so. For its uniqueness in design and story, I'll be putting Terion in B tier. It's pretty straightforward, gets to the point, and the story itself isn't too bad. No one dies, new for EXE, so we're going to be going back into unsettling territory because it's this thing. This is Lumpy Touch's Movie Sonic. This is a sort of satirical take on the terrible original design from the Sonic movie. Shout out to Lumpy Touch. Dude is definitely talented. But, yeah. It said this thing took the original Sonic's skin and wears it and pretends to be him. This thing is a psychopathic nightmare. Great design, but I mean, not much more to it, so I think that fits in B tier. Commando Dev is back with another EXE. This is DSK, and instantly the art here in design caught my eye. Like, honestly, this shading and art style is pretty sick. DSK is described as a spirit of power and is the main protagonist and antagonist of the DSK series. DSK is a result of a failed experiment of a liquid called Vitamin X. A father brings his son to work, which is dumb to bring a kid to work with chemicals, but I digress. The kid brings his Sonic Mega Collection disc near the experiment, and it gets inside of the game, corrupting it entirely. Going home to play it, he gets trapped within the game, and this liquid gained a soul. DSK can take the souls of others and become more powerful the more he consumes. Love the design. The story is a little but I could see how it might work. I like it enough to put it in A tier. The design is solid. Kind of a unique idea. I don't fully understand how the spilling it on the thing would cause that, but moving on, we have another cool design, Mono.BW, made by Crybit, now owned by Red God 97. This hedgehog looks sick. Like, seriously, this color scheme will never not look cool to me. And I know I sound like a broken record, but this art is great. Great design, great artwork, no lore aside from having a high battle IQ. For this next EXE, its whole point is body horror, so viewer discretion is advised. Grimeware by Scorch VX is a virus that infected Sonic during the events of Sonic 3 in an alternate universe. Robotnik got a good smack on him, and as he fell into the depths, he was corrupted with a virus. It only wants to find more brutal and horrific ways to add to its hive mind. And that's about it. It has a disguised form, its normal form, revealed form, and its true form, most of which are pretty creepy. For some reason, this concept really interests me. I mean, it's totally possible for Sonic to meet with a virus that he's never come across before and for him to be corrupted. Not only can it happen, but the look of the character is pretty well done. It's not too in-depth, but honestly, it doesn't need to be. It has some great art. I could safely put Grimeware in S tier. Speaking of pesky things that affect your body, Leech by Mystical Mist is up next. Leech is technically Sonic the Hedgehog, which you may be confused because this clearly doesn't look like Sonic. The story goes like this. There was an imposter that took the appearance of Sonic and killed all of those close to him. It's stated this is actually Sonic.EXE that did this, and the real Sonic arrived too late. Upon seeing Sonic, EXE placed an eternal curse on him instead of killing him outright. Sonic's body would morph and change for decades, years of torment and pain as he morphed into something unrecognizable. It would force him to eat the bodies around him, and his mutation allowed him to absorb Tails and Knuckles, fusing them into a massive Hydra like worms. And thusly, Leech was born. Now on a quest to hunt EXE and devour him to claim everything back. Looking into and reading all these Sonic creatures can be a lot, but it shows me the talent and creativity in the community. A very unique take on Sonic.EXE, and I actually really love this concept, so I'm going to be putting Leech in S tier. MeltHog, made by Knack and Misfire. I didn't know how to transition that, but this is who's next. MeltHog has pretty much nothing on him. You see, he was created for Sonic.EXE FNF Mod 1.5 update, but was rejected and scrapped. He's Sonic who became sentient in-game and slowly melted his body, revealing what he can be. There isn't much here, but the character has potential, but it likely won't go anywhere, so I'll be putting him in C tier. The next one we have is a Sonic CreepyPasta game called Don't Leave Me, made by Zanster Games. This character's name is Null. The story is about an alternate timeline of Sonic 3 where the duo go through various zones, but Tails feels he's nothing more than a toy. Null comes from one of those endings of the game. Sonic's buddy falls into a static-filled nightmare and the blue blur follows suit. He kicks Tails up and saves him, but in turn, hears an ear-piercing noise, feeling himself go insane. It opens his stomach and rips off his face, becoming Null. Not only does the art really stand out, but the fact it comes from a game, I could safely put him in A tier. And what can I say? I like creepy versions of Sonic. So, let's talk about a creepy Eggman. This is Genesys, or Genesys. I'm not sure. An entity made by Raven that is now owned by Dumby. I'm just gonna say this here. This Eggman is a complete troll. Genesys has taken over the game he resides in, meaning he gets full control over the game. He takes this opportunity to kill Sonic over and over again. He doesn't wish to harm the player, like, other EXEs, but will torment Sonic until you stop playing the game. Sonic will always be by his killer, until you try to beat the game again, in which case, Sonic will only suffer again and again in the most brutal ways until you quit forever. Wow, I'm putting Genesys in B tier. Not much to him. Design isn't anything original, but the concept is interesting. Poor Sonic. This guy is like playing Elden Ring while blindfolded and one-handed. The next one is Mr. X. I could only find this picture and found out this was a scrapped character in Sonic.EXE. Not much for me to find out, but I do know it's made by Gyro Shift and is owned by It's Ale Pie. Cool design, but that's it. And to C tier it goes. And the next EXE doesn't have much to them either. Sonic, with a K.FLA, is an EXE created by SkyT and is an opponent you go against in document.txt, which is an FNF mod. By the way, a really hard FNF mod. It originates from a parody animation of Sonic given sentience by a mysterious individual. Not much to it. Isn't all that scary. I don't know what else to say. We'll also be putting this one in C tier as well. Sir Cross, or Sir X, is an EXE created by Uptaunt, now owned by Egg on YouTube. Originally a retake on Sonic.EXE, he now is a mix of multiple retakes of Sonic CreepyPasta. This character is a work in progress, but I like the design and it does seem like it has potential, but for now I'll be putting them in C tier until I find out more. But let me ask you guys a question. What would happen if Sonic.EXE was made into canon? Well, that's what Sonic.EXE, or X from the movie Sonic Villains made by MeToons, aims to do. This is a movie that is still in development, but we do have some information about the character. Essentially, this version of X is a computer virus invented by Dr. Eggman, crafted from chaos energy and DNA samples of the real Sonic. He was made to hack electronic devices, but gained the ability to digitize victims to the world he creates. Twisted, cunning, he traps those living within his game and forces them to play with him. He builds the levels to be unfair and impossible in every way, killing them oftentimes with illusions. A canon Sonic.EXE would be a really interesting take, and this may be the closest thing we get. I could safely put this guy in A tier. Created by Fripami, this is Neo, an entity that can manifest itself into games and use characters as vessels. Though for now, he inhabits Sonic in Sonic 3. This is an older version of a character, now known as Entity X, I believe. That, or it was a reboot for the character. The difference being Entity X is a computer virus AI that targets non-licensed games or emulators. It's said he bullies people by its piracy measures, so if you're using an emulator and this guy finds out, I've got bad news for you. I'll be putting Neo and Entity X in B tier, as I kind of like the idea, but it will be used in the future. Owned by Pumpkin Man Jack, this is the current incarnation of Chaotix, who will be the next few people we talk about. These are two parts of one being, having different personalities and looks depending on who's out. Sunset is quiet, calm, and collected, being childish at times. Both of these characters inherit Tails being in a way, so Sunset has the intelligence of Tails as well. Once Midnight hits, they will transform into their other self. Midnight is aggressive, though not fully hostile, getting more of an animalistic nature. Midnight is aware they are related to Tails, and wants to desperately return to being Sonic's sidekick, though due to the similarities, confuses Mighty for Sonic. It's said this character has gone through quite a bit of changes. The one I'm ranking are these two. I'll focus on that. That's the characters themselves explained. Not a bad design, not much to them. I'd put them in C tier. SUNKY.ROM is up next and is a character owned by the Quiet One and co-owned by random person. AMS 3977, J Cool, and man, that is quite a bit of people to be owned by. The story is being reworked from the ground up and we'll be getting a fully playable game and a rewritten creepypasta. We do know this creature is self-aware and is sentient. It gained the ability to think after catching on to the wrong actions of someone named Colt. The disc he resides in was meant to be a harder version of Sonic 1 and was a passion project Cameron had made for his child. Colt, however, ended up copying this disc and turned it into a Trojan. If the player scammed for malicious codes, it would overheat the PC. It has the ability to track your location, and a set of murders would take place known as the Burning X murders caused by Colt. See, this is pretty interesting. I actually like this design quite a bit, and Colt being locked into a battle against a sentient ROM that they technically created is amazing. I'm happy to place this guy in A tier. I can't wait to see more stuff about it. Apollyon, made by Jack Gore, appears like Sonic, but much more, well, like this. Coming from the creepypasta Zeroth game, Apollyon exists in a Sonic 3 ROM hack with two others named Aziel, Zephikiel, and Zeroth. I don't know if I said their name right, but their goal is to hunt down Sonic characters. After performing a ritual for Sonic 3, at least I think that's what you do, you're greeted with the cursed game in question. It's unclear what happens when you lose, but I imagine it's not pretty. The game is difficult, but the protagonist makes it through, and Apollyon claims they will meet again. So, if you actually beat the game, you live. Neat design. The story is pretty expansive. I know I shortened it down quite a lot. I'm going to put him above C tier and place him in B tier just because I feel like it's still pretty good. Phantom Arma is a mighty EXE created by Anorak Warriors. Simply put, this character takes place within the Sonic universe, having his mind taken over by the Phantom Ruby. It does as the Phantom Ruby wishes and wants nothing more than to fulfill those desires. He's tricked into killing his friends by the Ruby in order to save them, quote unquote, but really it's just the corruption speaking to him. Simple concept, unique design, and I actually like this idea of the Phantom Ruby having that sort of influence on someone. All in all, seems like a B. Unfortunately for this guy, he won't get a second chance. Wait, shit. Second Chance was made by Narrow Your Eyes and was meant to debut in a series like Meadow Mouse called Downfall, but it never came out, though we are left with their story. The story of Downfall includes Second Chance, and the other character in this tier list is named Hedge. To understand how this story works, it's important to note that in the Sonic 1 ports, the game runs checks to see if Sonic is on the screen. If a Sonic goes missing, another one will appear to take their place once it's fully confirmed. Observed by a player named Polo, the first Sonic would fall through the stage of Labyrinth Zone and a copy of Sonic would spawn at the beginning of the level. The new Sonic would have somewhat different idle animations, almost portraying excitement to take the role as the hero. Clearing through most of the game, this Sonic would find himself unable to complete the final zone, for the first Sonic, Hedge, was forever tumbling below the stage, until eventually the game would notice Hedge and was promptly moved to Green Hill. Meanwhile, Second Chance would be stuck, unable to progress. In the midst of his anger, Second Chance slammed a ring into his chest, for instead of killing him, it would grant him immortality. Essentially, if he couldn't lose rings, he could never perish. Second Chance is able to escape, but only has one goal in mind: to hunt down Hedge and make him suffer for taking away his ability to be the hero. Hedge, however, did reach the bottom of the void, landing straight on his face. The void underneath Labyrinth Zone would contort and change the hero's image. This would somehow give him knowledge of the multiverse, though Hedge would find his way out. Robotnik had taken over and mechanized everything Sonic knew. Seeing this, the Blob wanted to leave, and with this newfound knowledge, he realized he was a computer file, able to transfer himself elsewhere in Polo's computer. He would find himself in a hallway of options, each leading to an EXE's world. There is a bit more to it than that. However, that is the general gist I got from it. While I'm not sure how the Void would grant such abilities in the game, the concept of not being able to be found in the game files and the copies of Sonic is pretty neat. Design-wise, both have something unique about them. Second Chance having a pretty cool look. Not bad. Some things didn't make sense to me, but I'm still going to put it in B tier because I like the designs and I think I get the general concept. Nameless is the next SonicPasta by Geo, I guess. And that's their name, Geo, I guess. This character is a semi-sentient Sonic in a ROM of Knuckles' Chaotix. But this version of the game is a failed project called Project Speed Demon. This SonicPasta features its own website to go along with the lore, but due to Geo not knowing what to do with the character, it was scrapped. Basically, this was an in-universe ROM hack, and we were to go through and find what is going on. So like go through the website and do all of our own research. Honestly, the idea is really cool. Unfortunately, it was never finished. Gonna have to put him in B tier. Armadonix is owned by Jasper Cat, and dear God, look at this thing. They see EXE as a parasite, and I wish I could say more about it. It said it was never given a full story, and we don't got any concepts to go off of, but may receive a story in the future. Put him in C tier for now. Following that, we have a jester of sorts named Kaida, otherwise referred to as Sonic.JP. This is an EXE made by Xenophanes and is owned by The Quiet One. A Japanese Sega ripoff company makes a bunch of bootlegs before going bankrupt, but years pass and it later becomes a worship place for cults who try to, and really listen here, transfer demons into games by offering sacrifices. I'm left to wonder why they would do this specifically, but Sonic.JP is born this way. And that's about it. I'll put this guy in C. Jasper Cat comes back once more with an EXE named SNK, which, looking at it, you may be able to tell why they're named this. Not much is known about them, but they look pretty cool. I'm just gonna slap him and see. Stress Factor and Overclocked, funny name by the way, owns Unused, which is next on the tier list, along with Archived, being two beings who exist in the same story. Unused is a Sonic remaster of Sonic Advance that takes stuff from Sonic Rush, which would become infected with the virus from another world. Archived is from Sonic Advance, but due to stolen code being implemented, this is what becomes of him. They have some pretty cool stuff for the character. The story is still a work in progress and some things could be wrong. To my understanding, Archived destroys Unused World by the developer mixing their code. Archived escaped his initial game to invade the remake because he was angry it didn't feature him. A bit confusing for me, pretty unique and cool designs, but I'll be putting them in C tier for now. Why are you looking at me like that? This is Speedy, spelled with 2 3s instead of E's. This Sonic becomes self-aware and uses debug mode to troll. He's not an evil guy. He's just a little mischievous and silly. He really likes to mess with Eggman, and it's stated he specifically is afraid of other Eggman EXEs. Just a silly little guy, C tier for being a little silly. This is Sin, made by XenOTD, now owned by Divinium. This weird looking thing is a yokai. The year is 1990. A detective is investigating a series of suspicious deaths. Each person who died left behind a series of numbers. The detective refuses to believe it's the work of a ghost until his son disappears. The story is set to get a rework and new look, and man, I feel like this happens a lot. This isn't an EXE anymore, and it's related to Sonic because Sin uses a Sonic CD cartridge to communicate and mess with the detective. That being said, C tier for Sin. Cyclops, or Speed.GIF, is owned by Pow Pow. This is a work in progress, but it was likely made popular due to the pretty impressive looking Speed.GIF's FNF mod. I can't seem to find anything related to lore about the character itself, just that it's made from dark matter and it's in the FNF mod that was challenged by Fatal Error. Really love the look of this guy and the media relating to him, and the sprites look really cool. B tier for Cyclops. Have you ever been afraid of a virus on your computer? Well, have these piracy guys come to help you out. This is Piracy Sonic, Tails Defender, Knuckles Defender, and Mighty Defender. These guys are desktop helper / antivirus like Bonsai Buddy. You guys remember Bonsai Buddy, right? What am I saying? Of course you do. Sonic and friends have the ability to fry your computer, but they stay friendly. That is, unless you have a pirated game on your PC. If this is the case, Sonic will make the game impossible to beat and challenge you, and then break the game, making you unable to run it. They're fully sentient and will show this happily. It's stated they're able to delete Lord X PC port if needed, which I thought was oddly specific, but hey, that's cool. I love this concept, and I know some of you may be surprised, but I'm putting Sonic and Friends in A tier. This would be honestly so awesome to have on my computer. Wacky. One of the more interesting EXEs to exist, and yes, this thing is classified as an EXE and is now owned by DJ Awesome. DJ Awesome is currently working on the rewrite for the character, and all we have is the design for now. No matter who it's made by, I have to say is a pretty unique look. Put Wacky in controversial tier, but since it was handed to a new owner, I feel like it gives the character some sort of reprieve from that. So for now, I'm gonna put them in C tier until the lore is made. And you guys may be asking, Don, did you just make a controversial tier so you'd have to do less work and look into less EXEs? And to answer your question, next up we have Amalgam by Neobeat. Not much is known about this guy, but he was meant to be in an FNF mod, which may be something you've noticed. Like it or hate it, a lot of EXEs have and can take their rise to stardom from FNF mods. Whether you want that or not is up to you, but it is true. And as for the rankings, since there isn't much to be known, I'm going to put them in C tier for now. You know, this being my first video doing something like this, I'm not exactly sure how to segue into this many EXEs. So here's Lock-On, made by Gink/Gear. Lock-On is a product of a copy of Sonic and Knuckles glitching. This does come with some side effects, as Sonic has combined with Knuckles, but it's not our usual echidna we know and love. Knuckles takes on his more antagonistic side, fighting and outright killing if needed to reach the Master Emerald. Sonic, on the other hand, isn't quite his brave and confident self. instead has a more paranoid outlook on things and is often anxious. Sonic is said to have weak will in this story and is only able to take possession when Knuckles is asleep or is knocked out. Other than that, while in control, Sonic means no harm to others and only wishes to shatter the Master Emerald. This would destroy Knuckles' mind in the process, ending his quest. Now, this character was to be hard rebooted into our next character, but is now its standalone entity. A villainous Knuckles radicalized by a glitch, and Sonic fighting within the same body is a pretty neat concept. For that, I'll be putting them in B tier. Now for what was / may be the full reboot, simply named 1993. 1993 refers to itself as Sonic and is unaware that it's actually another form of X. The story goes that 1993 is an entity who exists in a physical copy of a lost beta version of Sonic 3. A user by the name Paradise Panic 94, which has a real YouTube channel, finds the game within their attic. Deciding to play it, let's be real, most of us would, it boots up to a Sonic survey as opposed to the original. It asks odd questions like, what do you think of Sonic? And what's your favorite Sonic character? But clicking on Sonic will have an incorrect buzzer. Paradise is only able to close the game when finishing the survey. This is a pretty weird twist on things, but one thing that is welcome, presenting the story with this old YouTube video vibe is something I can honestly really appreciate it, and for that reason, I'll have to rank it in B. Oh dear God, what is this? Posing as a realistic representation of an Elohim angel, this is called hyper accurate. They took a biblically accurate angel and combined it into hypersonic, and I gotta say, that's pretty random, but works really well in this case. Sirius owns this abomination, its story being just as weird. During the events of Sonic Mania, in an alternate reality, the Phantom Ruby would send Sonic to Hidden Palace, but strangely enough, the Super Emeralds were still active. It was clear that something was different. The palace was filled with other prophecies, telling of a being with immeasurable power, with an aspect Sonic wouldn't recognize. Sonic collected some of the emeralds prior, and though he had a strange feeling about the Super Emeralds, he would use them for the final battle regardless, even if he had collected some normal emeralds beforehand. Sonic defeats Eggman and took the Phantom Ruby. The Chaos Emeralds would normally destabilize the Ruby, opening a portal to another dimension. But now, something was different. Sonic had too much power, even for the Ruby to withstand. When getting too close, a reality shift happened, causing the two universes to merge into one. Sonic, in this hyperform, tried to contain union of the two worlds, but being exposed to the other world, it caused him to fuse with the Phantom Ruby. Hypersonic, being one with the Phantom Ruby, makes him unstable and affects his emotions. Not fully sure where or if the biblical stuff plays much into the story, but Sonic fusing with the Phantom Ruby while in hyperform is something I wouldn't have thought of. I'm a little biased to Hypersonic, it being my favorite transformation in the series, and the design here is well done, so I'm gonna put them into B tier. Ew! Oh, sorry, couldn't help myself. This is Stranger, made by Muto. This is a failed version of a Sonic clone. The story is told through logs written by what I presume is Eggman, as he writes his distaste for the Hedgehog and the result of the testing. It's said that in his normal form, he's actually kind and a little silly. But being as he's a failed experiment, it does have a drawback. If you observe his hands, he will turn into this. Yoshikage would have a hard time with this creature. If you know, you know. I also believe this is going to make an appearance in the upcoming The Sonic.EXE rerun FNF mod. Muto being the lead artist and animator, along with being the director. If that's the case, wow, and this art is amazing. Honestly, the representation of this creature and the lore lands this in A tier for me. Well done. Warning for a lot of cartoony blood for this next one. This is Macabre Sonic, made by Dr. Bread Pyre. The story takes place in an AU. Sonic breaks an ancient artifact, leading him to being replaced by an evil entity known as the Menace, taking his image and making him out to be a monster. Macabre found himself stuck due to this entity, as the place he resided in, Hidden Palace, had become bugged in a way. It was because of this he couldn't escape. But not all hope had been lost, as Tails was able to free him, though this would quickly be ripped from him as his captor found out and killed Tails. The two engage in a fight, the whole level collapsing, Macabre managing to crawl out of the level once again. The result of the battle destroyed him, but he was able to rebuild himself using Tails' code. Now being almost fully restored, he vowed to help others who are in similar situations against EXEs and giving them a taste of their own medicine. The story could be a little confusing, as in the point where Sonic gets the ability to steal code isn't really fully specified. As in, the point where Sonic gets the ability to steal code isn't fully specified, but that could just be because I may be misinformed or couldn't find the exact reason. But the idea of a victim surviving the EXE's attack and vowing to fight other EXEs is pretty neat in my opinion, and the design is fantastic. Then again, I'm a sucker for capes. Regardless, I actually think I'm gonna put this guy in A tier. Dr. Bread Pyre makes a return with an EXE known as Culprit. The story is a work in progress, but it said this EXE first appeared in a mod for Sonic Adventure 2. It was published by an unknown person, and the person releasing it soon fell silent after its release. The mod said to have new designs and a custom story, but as these things go, players found this game unplayable and Culprit would take control. Culprit tortures those in game and aims to take over the throne of hell. Yeah, honestly, that's quite the jump. More will likely be added to the story, but I gotta say, I love this design. I'll be putting them in C. Diablo is the main antagonist of an FNF web series, the Sonic.EXE Rerun UST, created by DJ Awesome. This is an alternate universe Sonic.EXE rerun, having lore and story built into it. The song Drop and Roll debuting Diablo. Though he may look like one, he's not a demon. His origins are unknown, but he has a special fascination with boyfriend and girlfriend and Pico along with their motives. This EXE is egotistical but intelligent. He's said to plan everything out beforehand, his victims becoming prey and they don't even know it. Though he does have a form of weakness, if there is a wrench thrown into his plan, he can't improvise super well. Not much other than that is known about Diablo, but Drop and Roll shows him fully animated, and I gotta say, I love it. If you haven't heard it before and you like FNF, I highly recommend you guys check it out, as the animation is awesome. Combine this with Diablo's unique design for an EXE, I think I'm definitely gonna place this guy in S tier. DJ Awesome isn't done yet, as we have Postmortem, another EXE belonging to the Sonic.EXE Rerun UST, having its own lore to it along with an FNF song. These two come from a Sonic bootleg made for the NES. Dr. Eggman was scheming when suddenly everything had gone wrong. A mishap corrupted the game and killed everyone but the two main characters. Sonic was distraught, having lost everything in a moment's notice. Not only that, but the glitches caused him to be either blind or mute depending on what he was doing. Whereas Eggman obtained newfound strength and was made to be immortal. Confusion, guilt, anger all consumed Sonic, and with everything he had, he tried to stop Eggman. But given Eggman's newfound immortality, it was for nothing. Eggman delivered the final blow to the blue blur, though the glitch had also made Eggman aware that he was in a game, and thusly Eggman would not only take control of Sonic, but look directly towards the player. With Sonic under his control, Eggman challenges the player, wanting to break free. It's worth noting, I believe this is DJ Awesome's take on a story called Sonic Has Passed, sharing some similarities. Regardless, Sonic with a cape, especially in this art style, will always seem cool to me. I don't think this is quite S tier, as I've been trying my best to be resourceful and also with what really clicks with me and what I immediately feel. So I'm going to be putting him in A tier. Still pretty good, but just not quite S tier for me. Now, onto some EXEs I have history with. We're taking a look at the Nightmare Universe, which what I'm going to say may upset some people. Exceller is the first on the list, debuting in the game Spirits of Hell. Despite being put in the Nightmare Universe, this guy is made by Dan the Patient Bear, along with this game. And due to this being in a future video, including him in this game, I can't say much. Just know this guy comes from a popular Sonic.EXE game. It is something called a zero-classed highest. This is a ranking system in the universe. Think of them as gods in a way. Pretty basic design, but a great looking game even if it is difficult as hell. This EXE had an impact, so in my opinion, he is not S tier, but I can put him in A. Now we have exterior and Sark. Yeah, no, that. I'm not touching this story with a 10-foot pole. In fact, I got a special place for you, Sark. There we go, all together. Chaos is up next. This little guy is made by Hamster Man and comes from a game called Stone of Darkness. This fan-made EXE game has yet to be released, at least the newest version hasn't been. There have been other versions, but due to the creator taking them down, they are no longer available through normal means. The current story of Chaos is likely outdated, and for that reason, we may have to come back to this someday since I'm fairly certain it's being worked on. If anyone knows, tell me down in the comments below. And while you're down there, subscribe. Ah, yes! All-Father, made by Jack Gore. The idea of the All-Father is, he is every EXE and has one goal in mind: to spread his name across the world. They are a part of him, and the more people know about him, any form of him, the more powerful he grows. This concept is one of the coolest ideas for an EXE, because his name will be spread. He does have an FNF one-off song called No More Souls to Play With. In this specific scenario, he achieves his goal. Everyone in the world, perhaps the universe, is gone, except for one more soul, which happens to be you. This idea is horrifying, and though not canon to Jack Gore's lore, at least I don't think so, it's great. The reason he's named All-Father is because he was born from beliefs of people, taking the form of a golden calf, an item made to worship. The calf would be dismantled, being split apart into different entities, and one of them was All-Father. Due to Sonic's popularity, All-Father would take notice and change it to be like Sonic's. In 2011, All-Father would use Sonic's image to take souls. Due to this, a popular creepypasta was made based on his events, giving the All-Father more power, changing his shape and form to match the times he would continue to spread his name and influence throughout the world. Safe to say, this guy is S tier. Oh, and for some reason, Alex, victim of All-Father, is here. To be honest, he's kind of pathetic, but he's also immortal. It's said he's cowardly and bitter. He's willing to sacrifice others to save himself from X or All-Father. I'm just gonna put this guy in C, because even if you are a victim, you ruin the image of Tails, and for that, I cannot forgive you. Alright, who's next? Oh, someone I've made a video on. Sonic.EXE. Great design, very creepy, and a great game. Not much is out about the current story of EYX, but his game and designs are something I really enjoyed. This is another S tier. We're not done with game entities either, as this one has infected my channel as well. Sonic.OMW, made by Mr. Pixel Productions. This guy has gone through quite a bit amount of games, and the games are something. I would classify them as dying simulators. The animations and the new game being worked on is looking quite polished. This character's a retake on Sonic.EXE, but with a new design and new ways of inflicting torture upon his victims. Say what you will about OMT in his games, and I hate to say this again, but I'm putting him in S tier. Perhaps I'm a little biased because this monster helped me in a way. That being said, we have this ugly thing. Made by GiroShift. Aegis is the fans' collective love of Sonic and his concept, but in the worst way possible. Sonic, or Sonic-related media, has formed into a monstrosity, being very different to Sonic. Though they are the same character, obviously there is a major difference in looks, Aegis has his own universe guardians, all named after the Milky Way planets, and the cult of X called the Rings of Order. This, of course, is subject to change. I mean, look at this chubby little guy. Alright, sorry guys, I don't think I can put this guy anywhere higher than B tier. This next one is pretty cool, and the way the story is told is unique. Panic is made by EFE, and the story is told through this analog horror sort of animation, and it has a great art style. Not to mention, this guy's design, along with said art style, is something I haven't really seen before. This is a sort of revenge plot, but has a spin to it. I highly advise you guys go watch the full thing over on EFE's channel, And to compel you further, I'm going to put it in S tier because I find this EXE project really cool. A lot of these next Sonic entities involve FNF, so a few of you may recognize it from there. Starting off with DX. DX is made by Saster and Doorknob and is referred to as a red virus. The backstory of DX isn't too unique. It's even stated to be a generic EXE story, just now taking place in Sonic Classic Collection. It's also said the story is outdated, so I won't go into too much detail, but we can assume something has taken over Sonic's body. The fan-made version of Breaker Bundle is where I know him from, and the mod is pretty cool, admittedly. And the design seems interesting enough. I mean, I hate to say it though, this guy didn't pull me in past that, and I'm going to be putting him into B tier. Sorry, DX fans, I just wanted a bit more story. Now, picture this. The fate of the world is in your hands, and you have to be quick. The evil Robotnik is out to take everything away from you, and you want nothing more than to reach him and stop him. It's your destiny. You're the only one who can do it, but something happens. You're traversing the depths of the thing you hate most, water. When you feel something clamp around your ankles, the pressure of the water builds around you and your breath is leaving you. The timer starts to count down and you're drowning. But when you feel like you're about to die, you don't. This is Sync Sonic, trapped under Labyrinth Zone for all eternity. Banger FNF mod, banger concept, immediate S tier, well done, Mr. DJ. What if you guys thought this was cool? Wait until I bring up the next one. Because up until this tier list, I didn't know this guy, but I'm glad I do now. I Spy, made by Code Trilogy, is an ambassador of the Black Eye species. He wishes to achieve freedom, supremacy, and territorial expansion. This want would form his decision to protect the Black Eye species and the killing of millions of other alien species, including many on Mobius, which is where our story would pick up. I Spy has a graphic novel announced about them with absolutely amazing art. The fact this is considered an EXE is crazy to me. Complete with multiple forms, a graphic novel, and a cohesive story, this may be one of the best takes on EXE. They do have a rough draft of the story on their Twitter, and it gets pretty interesting. For that reason, I'm putting this guy in S tier. Alright, who do we got next? Oh, good. It's this guy. I hate this guy. Not because of his design or concept, but because of his FNF mod. Document.txt is made by Kofi. Ko-Fi? I don't know. And it's the hedgehog we go against in the FNF mod versus document.txt. The story is as simple as this. Some idiot, yes, that's how it's put, renamed a Sonic.2.ROM to a .txt file and created a sentient hedgehog. That's it. Oh, and he likes to mess with your computer, which he does in the mod, and it's really annoying. Songs are pretty good though. B tier for a solid mod, but screw this guy for making my life hell while also staying unique. Speaking of unique, we've got this guy. This is X, made by Callum the M. This X comes from a series called Creep Killers, which is a reimagining of several popular creepypastas. CK is a digital entity that can travel through electronic devices and software. Though he has full freedom in the virtual world, he truly wishes to break free into the physical realm and have the ability to freely consume souls, as he's limited to what he has now. But his ways of doing it virtually is tricking people into downloading games or other media, and the only way to fight back against him is having really strong willpower. Should you lose, your soul is as good as gone, and X will do whatever it takes to break you. In any case, nah, I'd win. B tier. Not bad, pretty unique in design, but just didn't speak to me in like some others did. Next, man, why do people love taking Sonic's face? Poor guy can't catch a break. This is Data Reset, an EXE created by Artrax63. The story of Data Reset is, well, it's actually in the name. Basically, this is the prototype version of Sonic in 1990. And when it was first revealed to the public, most people didn't like how he looked. And as a result, prototype was scrapped. So Sonic team decided to reset the prototype's data, and wouldn't you know it, this process would cause prototype Sonic to lose his ears, 2 arms, eyes, and the skin covering his snout. His face was replaced with a gaping void, and for whatever reason, he was granted unlimited arms that can come out of his face. Data Reset found himself stuck in Green Hell Zone. seeing the other new Sonic and blames all of his pain and suffering on the blue blur. Following this, he would first kill him in Green Hill Zone, and once Sonic respawned in Marble Zone, he'd do it again. At the continue menu, there appeared to be no option to restart, and Sonic appeared out of the darkness in tears. The timer started to count down from 10. Every second that passed, Sonic cried more. And by the end of the timer, arms came from the ground and ripped him to pieces. And that is the story of Data Reset. Not to sound like a broken record, I really tried to mix up the commentary, but the story is just okay, and the design is interesting. I think it has potential, but the way the story is told, at least from what I've seen, it seems rather rushed. For this reason, I'll be putting them in, and you can guess this, B tier. The next one is called 500Y!X and is another take on the original Sonic.EXE story, and this character is owned by Dylan Z Muffin, or Dylan Z Muffin. This guy has a pretty cool design, and the rest of the information is outdated currently. I did a little bit of digging, and all I know is this guy is pretty much made of void matter, and that he almost took out the Cult of X entirely. Great design, may have potential, I'll put him in C tier for now. Okay, now we have the original, which has got to be the most confusing name for an EXE, though he does look pretty cool. To summarize, this character is kind of like if you took a bunch of Sonic EXEs you love and put it into one story. That's the original. This guy is made by Sir Lies. The story starts off as most Sonic EXE stories do. The original finds Mobius, becomes interested, kills Sonic characters, yada yada. But what if I told you this would turn into an all-out EXE war? The original was said to be the very first EXE. There's another character called the Lord, which is an alternate future self of the original. The original is at some point left in the void and time goes on. The Lord expands his power, more EXEs are made. There's art, there's a couple of timeline graphics that describe what's happening, and to be honest, I can't fully describe what's happening in this one video. Just know the art is really something, and the story involves a lot of EXEs and a few wars between them. And you know what? I'd put this guy in S tier. Could make a solid standalone video for this guy specifically. The amount of depth that goes into these and the amount of art and different takes on existing EXEs and putting them all into one universe is a pretty neat concept, and I'd like to make it clear that this does exist within the realm of Sir Lies and his universe, not to be confused with the canon or anything like that. But yeah, that is pretty much the concept of the original. This guy is Sonic.demo, and he's getting a video in the future, because trust me, he has a lot of information on him. This guy has some rich lore, games made about him, and is made by Coplio Kusarmale. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say this name, but this is who it's made by. I will, however, rank him in S tier because what I've read so far and what I've seen is amazing. Speaking of characters getting their own video though, Shin the False Savior and Alice. I recently did a video on these two, and to summarize, this guy is 3 entities put into one. His game contains 10 levels to it, and is played like an MMORPG game. Each level has an arc to it, being something similar to Lord X's Guardians. One of these arcs is Alice. Great design, interesting take for an EXE, S tier for Shin, and since there isn't a lot about Alice, but enough to understand her motives, I'll be putting her in A. Next we have, 2007X is the EXE created by Press2s. She claims to be the first and original X, and doesn't really elaborate. She's kind, talkative, and has a friendly personality. Well, this is what she'd have you believe at first, when in reality she's bloodthirsty and feeds off of human souls. Though she does have a soft spot for children, as she doesn't absorb their soul because it's less potent. A few trivia facts about her: she canonically has a husband, and 2007 is very aware about the people who like her appearance. This is an EXE, and I'm not sure where it ties into Sonic aside from it resembling a hedgehog, but there isn't much substance here until more lore is released, so I'll be putting her in C tier. Moving on, we have the Umbra. This EXE is made by Sugar Dandy and Moth Mamas. Basically, Danny created the blueprint and Moth Mamas turned it into a legible story. Umbra is an AI made by Sega during the first Sonic game. One thing leads to another, and an unknown Trojan virus infects the AI, granting it the ability to become self-aware. The AI was made to determine how Sonic would move and act, and now suddenly it was making motions Sonic wouldn't normally make. Due to the bizarre nature of what's happening, Sega would take the PC that was housing Umbra and stash it away in an old electronics closet. However, one way or another, Umbra would travel through USBs and hide behind code until it found an opportunity to spread. Someone had posted about a haunted Sonic game, and from there, Umbra would take more and more control. I should also mention that there are some awesome animations involving this guy on the Gold Guy's YouTube channel, and it's pretty impressive. Like, heavily underrated. So go check it out. A pretty good design and not a bad concept. Gold Star, A tier. This next one you may know, but also don't. Zephaniah, at least that's how I think you say it, also known as Mighty.Zip, is made by Dastardly Deacon, not to be confused with his D-Side's counterpart. This is the original. The story for Mighty.Zip is pretty expansive and even has a sequel to it. The stories are called Sega Sonic.Zip and Chaotix.Zip, respectively. And I'm going to try to summarize the character itself best I can. Zeph is an AI that gains sentience within a ROM called Sega Sonic PC Port. The story centers around someone named Pandora and another person named Kyle. Basically, Pandora and a person named Gerald would run a video game restoration business, which means they would take old, outdated games and make modern ports of them. For this project, the two of them decided to hire an intern named Kyle, though they would find out they didn't exactly work the best together, as Kyle would criticize Pandora for the bugs she left in, but Pandora would dismiss him while also being harsh on him. Some time would pass, and Gerald and Pandora would find a file named Sega Sonic.Zip. I won't explain the full extent of what happens, but just know things like tearing off the cast limbs and other gory things would occur. It's later revealed Kyle did tamper with the game, but became horrified after what they described happened, as he wasn't the one who made them that way. It was meant to be a prank, but somehow this AI that used Mighty as a front had become sentient and self-aware. I didn't mind reading this story, and while I've heard this type of story before, the fact that it has a pretty solid design and sequel plus a D-Sides character really shows the person who made it is passionate about their character. So I'm putting Mighty.Zip in high A tier. Very well done. This next one is Eggman, the villain of a work-in-progress manga, Eye of Apocalypse, made by Masked Emerald. This Sonic pasta does have a theme while you read their backstory. Eye of Apocalypse takes place in the future of the Sonic franchise. It starts with Tails, Amy, and Sonic going on an adventure when something goes wrong and Sonic is found dead. Amy and Tails passing out. They awaken to see that their world was now entirely different, and that Amy wasn't herself. Everything they could see was an apocalyptic wasteland. More details are to be released in the story, but I'm liking the concept so far. It's said Eggman is a deal maker and views everything as entertainment for him. What's funny is, when I first saw this guy, I thought of Alucard from Hellsing, which it said he's actually inspired from that. On the wiki page, there's a song you can play with a quote that says, "May I play while you read?" I'm not sure if the song is original, but this idea is really cool, and it implies he knows you are reading about him. Pretty solid ideas, and I can see great potential. I'll be putting Eggman in A tier. I haven't said this before, but some of these EXEs come from something called the EXE Jam series, which includes a lot of EXEs in comic form. So some may be incomplete or just not have a lot on them because it's still ongoing. That being said, our next creature is named Inkstock, an EXE created by Super Kid, and is the main antagonist of EXE Jam. 2 days ago, as of recording this, there was a Q&A by Snoopier Kid on his channel, and I'm actually not going to spoil what's going on, but I will say this. Please go watch that video. I think the animation and voice acting are some of the best I've seen, and it's seriously amazing how talented this person is. It's a damn shame they are so underrated. I find this particular EXE fascinating, with a great look, easily going into S tier. Seriously well done. And if the lore develops further, I will be talking about this guy in the future. Moving on from Inkstock, we have gross! Sorry, I can't help it sometimes. This thing is just so ugly. This is Executable, made by Cyberlander. This guy kills Sonic and takes his place, and the story is meant to be a reimagining of the original Sonic.EXE creepypasta, and I gotta say, it's already doing better on the creepy part. The true name of this creature is Lord Tariel Telrai, and it's said to be a demon born out of darkness. He craved purpose, and for him, this was to inhabit a game, basing it from Sonic the Hedgehog. And so far, that's what I've been able to gather. Aside from the differences of the hunt, I really like the look of the EXE in both forms because, man, it's really unnerving. And I know I was like, ew, a second ago, but I'm putting him in A tier because this design is great, and I think it has, say it with me, potential. Now moving on from freaky to cool, with Agent X made by Demented HD. First of all, this guy looks rad. The concept and story is enticing as well. Basically, this guy is a sentient AI that was made to counter piracy of any kind. After some time of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, piracy became a problem, and that's where Agent X comes in, managing to spread across all Sonic games. It will take anything that doesn't belong in the game and seek to remove them, including other EXEs. Though it can be destroyed by other EXEs, it will reform and learn from the encounter and attempt to capture them again. The idea is pretty cool, so I'm going to put him in A tier. Next, we have this friendly looking fellow. Sonic.EXE is an EXE made by Gigagoku 30 and is a virus created in a corrupted Mega CD. This character is still a work in progress, going on design alone, and it's not too bad. C tier for now. Next up is from an FNF mod called Executable Entourage, named Refractor, created by Fern. It said he's an ancient EXE that is an ancestor to Sonic.EXE, and all EXEs related to him. Not much is known about him, aside from what's shown in the mod. I can't be too harsh, but I've seen quite a few EXEs try to gimmick of I was the first or I predate all EXEs. But his appearance in the mod made me curious, so I don't think I could put him higher than B tier for now. Oh yeah, this guy looks cool! And no, not just for the cape guys. That's just part of it. This is Fake Out, made by DoubtM/FakerSin. This creature's origin traces back to an encounter with antimatter and dark matter with the Sega employee. Already off to a crazy start. It relates to something called the Sonic Jam Genesys Vault, an unreleased revision of Sonic Jam. The lore for this guy is still being written, but I really like the design. B tier for now. This next one is Eternal by Heckin' Ivory. We've heard the revenge plot before, right? But I think in a lot of cases, it's changed in some way. I mean, when you think of revenge EXEs, one that comes to mind is Nidomouse, which our friend here takes heavy inspiration from. This is an Onryo named Eternal. Why is he named Eternal? The group had a fan game, and the protagonist is Sonic Eternal, that being the vessel Jack is using. A vengeful spirit given new life to take revenge after his closest friends betrayed and killed him. Why they did this is unknown, but the reason doesn't matter now. They're trapped within Jack's game and will suffer a terrible fate for what they've done. The story has more to it than that and a few characters, but if you guys want to check it out, you should. A pretty great design, and I'm always down for a revenge plot. A tier. All right. Childhood has passed, and I mean, with a name and design like this, I have a feeling this CreepyPasta will be good. Created by RayArt_A_R, and you may be thinking, is this some kind of demon? And you'd be right for thinking that, but it's actually something a bit more unique. This thing is the embodiment and representation of intrusive thoughts that hold you back from moving forward. An entity created from harmful nostalgia. The idea behind this thing is really cool. He exists within the fourth dimension, but is trapped there and can never escape. For him, time is a physical plane, and he can exist in past, future, present all at once. But he cannot escape the plane he is in and can only communicate verbally. It can manifest itself through anything that has a reflection and threatens the minds of those who rely on it, aka for those who rely on their nostalgia. This idea, especially disguised as Sonic, is one of my favorite concepts I've heard. A unique design and art style. It's truly enticing and was a great read. Everyone, we have ourselves an S tier. For next up, we have Backlash, made by, actually, I don't know. The page for this guy hasn't been updated to say the name, but it makes sense because wouldn't you know it, it's a work in progress. Backlash is a Sonic of his universe and has saved the world countless times until eventually something goes wrong. The Chaos Emerald had cursed Sonic with an immense amount of power, but to his detriment as he went on a rampage. It corrupted his mind, and he ends up destroying the Master Emerald and Knuckles along with it. Now, the idea isn't too bad, and I like the design of the character, but his powers are absolutely ridiculous, and I don't quite understand how it causes this much of an effect. I'll be honest, I like the hero turned villain by becoming too powerful trope, but this seems a bit excessive and the story doesn't fully express just how painful this is. For example, he has two different forms with different abilities stacked on top of each other, and it's incredibly broken, and it seems narratively this character was just made to be overpowered. In his base form, he has godlike strength, a super form, can clone himself, has all the abilities of base Sonic, which is already insane, can absorb energy, and his malice form can clone victims he's killed and clone people he's fighting, along with what may be the most broken ability, Rebirth. If this guy dies, he will come back with double the power he had, and it stacks the more he dies. So if he dies again, he gets 4 times the power and so on. He's also immortal. I don't mean to bash on this, but it really feels like this character was made to say Backlash can beat Goku. I will keep in mind this is a work in progress and things may be subject to change, but I'll be putting this guy in C tier. Great design though. I'm just not a fan of how the overpowered nature of this character is shown. Moving back to an EXE though, made by Randy Desu. Sonic.ROM is a step in the exact opposite direction of what we just talked about, being powerless and spit out by EXEs. So, other EXEs know of him, and make fun of him for being powerless and not like them. Every attempt at trying to catch Sonic's friends had failed, and he always ends up hurting himself instead. This guy is like an anime gag character, and I love it. He truly tries his best to live up to the Sonic.EXE name, but fails miserably to do so. He can only make crafts and such to mimic Sonic's appearance. In doing so, he made some pretty sick looking shades. I know we like our characters to be spooky, but this one is just too funny. I'll be putting him in A tier. This guy is just honestly so charming. For what's ahead, we have some climbing to do. And, as we call it, is truly fascinating. We have no idea who made this thing. Just someone by the name of Grandmouse Sonic posted a Sonic fan game on the Sonic fan game HQ, saying to climb the Green Mountain Trail. In the files, if you do the digging, it shows people conversing with one another, discussing if they brought a shovel or not as they traveled the Green Mountain Trail. There's quite a bit to this story, and though the game is a little difficult, it truly is mysterious, and this idea has been executed so well. There is so much mystery, and it just had me asking more questions, enticing me, and with all the fan media made about it, I'm definitely going to be returning to this guy at some point. And for now, we'll be putting him in an easy S tier. Moving on. This is Genesys.EXE, a character made by Just Hari, and it's from a series known as Virtuality Decay. Genesys.EXE is trapped within a game, a canceled game released in partnership between Sega and Nintendo. The game was to launch on the Virtual Boy, the title of it being Virtual Sonic the Hedgehog. But as you could tell by looking at this, it doesn't go well. This story revolves around someone named Trevor Haley, someone who tragically died under Sega's very harsh work conditions. Whilst he was carrying over cartridges of the game they were working on, he suddenly experienced a cardiac arrest, dying before he had the chance to get to the hospital. Though due to his lingering hate for the company and him holding onto the cartridges as he died, his soul was transferred to the game as opposed to the spirit realm. Upon finding himself in the game, he had lost all of his memories. No, the one thing that he didn't forget was the endless hate he had for Sega and what they had done to him. We've heard a similar story before, but I will say, I like how this one is handled. Amazing and horrifying design. I'm definitely going to be putting this guy in S tier. There's some context that I may have left out. I will be returning to this character to do a full video on it. Though we're not done with just Hari's creations yet, as has another one named Harvok. Harvok is the creation of a group of hackers who wanted to capitalize on the hype for Sonic Adventure 2. They created a fake website that stole personal information. This guy takes a page from Pendrive as it started to kill people by flashing light. This wasn't the original intent, but it seemed to have grown in a way no one predicted. It even kills its own creators. one by one. After reading about all these Sonic pastas, some of these stories can be similar to each other with some subtle differences, and I can't help but to take notice to that. Now, these stories are told differently, so I won't say they are all exactly the same, just something I've noticed, and I'm not saying that this is intentional. That being said, I can put this guy in B tier. I like the design, and the story's just okay. Next, well, I think I can safely say only one hedgehog is made of wood in this entire tier list, and it's this guy. Woodhog is an EXE created by Camero. Woodhog was created by Dr. Robotnik on accident. After this creature was brought to life, it was possessed by a demonic being. Pretty unique design, not much for the story, but after the amount of reading I've done, I can't say I'm too upset by that. I hate to say it, I'll be putting him in C tier for now. Though, if we can make a piece of wood in EXE, then we can also make a hole into an EXE. And that's who this is. Its name is literally hole.exe by Clever Man. Not much is known about this thing, and it seems like some of the stuff was written as a joke. It said he plays an important role in the cycle of rebirth and birth to the EXE verse. Not sure what that means in the grand scheme of things, but it looks cool. C tier for now. Oh! Look who's next. Mr. Rework himself. Pillar Chase X is made by Blade Ninja and is an EXE I covered recently. This guy is from a Roblox game called, well, Pillar Chase 2. This is two worldly entities merged into one and has the ability to traverse any game that includes the blue blur. It's either you love or hate this guy, but to see X in a game like this is pretty neat. This may confuse some people, but I'll be putting him in A tier. The design isn't anything too crazy original, but he represents X pretty well and allows us to play a Sonic EXE. Very cool. For this next one, I'll have to show you what caught my eye. This page has been the most creative thing I've seen so far when using the Sonic Oddities wiki, complete with teeth and stray eyes, and a pretty unnerving look to the creature. Aljunin, created by Ari, comes from a bootleg called Aljunin, the Hero of Arabia. This creature is quite unnerving because its method of infecting your mind is by playing a really loud siren sound. Once heard, it will begin to kill the brain and blood flow, giving extreme hunger to the victim. They resort to eating themselves or the closest person to them. The game itself is just a distraction to convince you, the player, everything is okay and that you aren't sick. It's a very cruel virus, and there is no known cure. This guy is incredibly unnerving, and his page is super cool. I don't think he's quite S tier, however, I do think he is in A tier. And this is Pseudo. Still struggling to segue these guys into the video, but this is a virus copy of Sonic created by Flying Naj. During the time when Sega and Nintendo were competing, a hacker hijacked copies of the original Sonic the Hedgehog to ruin Sega's reputation. This guy hates Sonic the Hedgehog with a burning passion and is just a mischievous little fella. The story of this is kind of silly, as someone who loves Sonic came along and tried to do something similar, with Mario leading both of the hackers to make multiple viruses to go against each other. He's a simple little guy who tries to ruin Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, it's not a bad concept. I'll slap him in B tier, but you know who's not a silly guy? Xylon, made by Oblixen. This guy is an omnipotent warlord and a conqueror. The story of this guy, at least to my understanding, is that there are crystals scattered about the universe. Upon landing on Earth, Hollis Damari Foster would come across one and interact with it. Upon doing so, it would transfer him to a different universe. Transforming his body and mind, he found himself now in the body of a hedgehog in an alternate universe. And from then on, he became Xylon, Conqueror of Worlds. Now, I'm leaving some story bits out, and more things may be revealed in the future. The story itself isn't patently written, though I do think the pacing and the characters' sudden motive to build a castle and conquer worlds seemed a bit odd. Like, before this, the guy had a wife and 2 kids. For now, I'll be putting him in B tier. It's kind of like a Sonic isekai, almost. Wait, is this next one? Could it be a vanilla EXE? My prayers have been answered. This is Mother, created by Mr. Steal a Trap. The story of Mother begins with a figure who is fascinated by the concept of family. For a long time, this creature would watch families grow, until she noticed something. Mother noticed the abuse that can happen in a family, how cruel humans can be to their own blood. Mother found out she can make her own world and morph herself into whatever she wanted. One day, she discovered a game called Sonic Adventure 2, a character simply named Vanilla. She inhabited this world, and when the player played this game, it was really her home they would enter. One day, a sick girl named Mary played said game. She has been neglected and never had the chance to leave the bed. It also just so happened that Cream was lifeless in game, and all it needed was a soul to occupy it. Mother comforted Mary and offered her a second chance in her home in the game she had been playing, offering her a new life to be loved. Mother reached out her hand, and Mary willingly gave up her life to inhabit Cream's body, leaving her real one behind. This, of course, fulfilled Mother's desire. She finally had a child, but she wanted more. She loved her new child that she would take care of, but humanity didn't deserve the title Mother. Only she does. I could say this, for me, is S tier. It's unique, a take on a character I would have never expected, and it has a pretty interesting goal. Mother is very dangerous, still has a spooky form, and has a solid motive. But we're not quite done with unique characters, as now we have Briar, made by Mr. Bass. Briar exists within a particular Sonic game, and it's clear it looks a lot like Amy Rose. Of course, I actually love this design. It's very adorable, though her not having a mouth is a little weird. I think it adds to the nature of the character. Anyway, players could faintly see something watching them from a distance, but not many would notice or even interact until one day a boy named Johnny seeks her out. They become friends until Johnny suddenly vanishes, and having her only friend suddenly vanish upset her and spark something sinister. I don't have much to say about the character since it's not fully done yet, but it's not too bad right now. C tier till it gets further development. This is Dumbfuck. A tier. Next, this is Speed Dial, owned by James Like Granola and RatsoTS. He's an Urple little guy. B tier. Sunk.ROM is made by Kirby Popstar, and he carries a gun on him at all times and points it at everything. Sunk was meant to be a ROM hack, but for some reason it got corrupted, leading to Sunk to be sentient and become a virus. I mean, look at that cute little guy. A tier for me. For YouTube reasons, I won't be saying this guy's name or talking much about him. This guy is made by Dylan Zamuffin. I couldn't help but to laugh at just how absurd this guy is.
Oh shit, is that Goku? Worry not, fellas. I got this. Square up!
A tier. This next one is named Johnny, created by Who C4 Res, and is featured in the executable Entourage FNF mod. This is it. It's just Johnny. C tier. Next, we have Timmy.jar by Fartsmacker. Some people who watch my streams, on both YouTube and Twitch by the way, are going to be happy this guy is in the video. I first saw Timmy.jar in my EXE review stream, where I take Sonic.EXE creations and review them. Timmy.jar really made an impression as he's a very incompetent killer. The story goes he resides within a Goodwill game, and if you play it, you feel the wrath of Timmy.jar, except he's not very good at it, and you truly have to be incompetent to be killed by this guy. Though it does ask the question, is that on purpose? It's hinted that Timmy has a softer side to him, and it's said he can feel empathy. He believes he's a villain, but perhaps there's layers to Timmy.jar. The story is pretty funny and absurd, and I think I could safely put him in A tier. Moving on, have you ever wondered what Knuckles would look like with fingers? Well, here it is. Fingers the Echidna is made by Reload X PSI and comes from his story Fingers the Echidna. Knuckles had been corrupted by plugging in Sonic 3D Blast into the Sonic and Knuckles add-on, the result of a kid being curious. The story is told through that perspective, a player suffering what may be hallucinations or more from Fingers the Echidna, and the game he played was bizarre. At one point, an image of Fingers pronouncing Sonic as a threat to Floating Island. The story goes a bit more in depth about what happens, and honestly my words alone may be a poor summary. But from what I read, it just didn't pull me in, so I'll be putting him in C tier. But we're not done with Knuckles yet. And Knuckles is a joke EXE made by I'm Not Sonic. This strange anomaly appears when the Sonic and Knuckles lock-on cartridge gets used with any other game than Sonic 3. Plug it into a game of choice and watch as Knuckles corrupts it and appears in that world. Simple concept, could be a funny idea. It's like adding and Knuckles to any game you play. The Last of Us and Knuckles. C tier. Now for the scariest thing of all. Scary Orange and Scary Orange Phantom. I think the original is a parody of Xenophanes from the verse Sonic.EXE FNF mod, and not much is known about him. He does make an appearance in Pillar Chase 2 though. Not much to them. I think they're just kind of here to be silly, and I'm down for that. Silly oranges can take C tier. Okay, next up we have Lady Tails. And dear God, does this girl have a lot of story to her. Okay, I won't be going over every detail, but I will try my best. So, Lady Tails is made by the Sammy one, and though she looks like Tails, she isn't. At least, not the actual Tails. See, she's a goddess from the beginning of time, and her goal is to maintain balance in the universe and to watch over the multiverse. The universe she resides in has their own version of Sonic, Amy, and a bunch of other characters. To be fair, it's not a bad Sonic creation. Adds a lot of story to it, but I don't think it's for me. I'll be putting her in C tier. Sorry, Lady Tails. EXE is next. Well, this is made by It's Beto, a sentient virus who takes Eggman's appearance and inhabits a Sonic 3 ROM hack. The story is still being developed, but this sentient virus is created by an anonymous person, and it goes rogue to create other things. I've seen this guy before, and he's not bad. I've heard this plotline before, but I have faith it'll be something good. So for now, I'll be putting him in B tier. Okay. Here we are, guys. We are on to our last person to cover. I've actually held this silly little guy for the end of the video. Some of you may be able to predict this, and some of you guys were wondering where he's been. Subscribe for my pain and suffering, but also because... Sonic Rewrite, made by Springless Echo. Or just Springless. One of my first videos to do well, and one of my personal favorite EXEs. With the great FNF mod and media made about him, this little guy is unnerving. Made to be the digital embodiment of God, he torments the unfortunate souls that have crossed his path. But if you haven't seen my mid-rewrite video, I go into more detail there. This is easily an S tier for me, as there's tons of animations, songs, and a bunch of more things to come out for rewrite. So I'm super excited to see it all. But that being said, I have done it. Almost every EXE on the tier list, ranked and explained. At times, it could seem like I was lazy, and honestly, you'd be right. But my goal wasn't to go incredibly in depth with each EXE. Rather, bring some light to the ones that may be underrated and learn about a bunch of them at once. This video took me so long to make from the script alone, but hopefully you guys found this entertaining in some way. I cannot say thank you enough for watching this video and supporting the Dunkachi channel. And a huge shout out to Sim, as he made a cameo as Sonic. If you guys haven't already checked out Sim, he's the official voice actor for 2017 EXE. Go check out his channel. It was really nice of him to lend me his voice. So thank you guys so much again. And remember, stay freaky.